All right, so hey, what's up? This is Brody. Sorry for the delay. I just needed to find some time to be able to create this tutorial for you, and hopefully this helps clear up some issues or whatnot. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna read your email, and I've already gone over it. This is gonna be unedited too, so if there's mistakes, I'm just gonna leave them. I don't really care. Let's see. You said you're interested in purchasing a LUT package, but not sure what package you want. Below are two links for slog2, sgamut for slog2. There's an slog3, I believe you mentioned. Both shot on the Sony a6300 Ace. My job is real estate photographer and recently edited video. So basically, window exposure is my biggest problem, retaining inside bright at the same time without carrying lights. I use Premiere Pro for editing and I'm pretty good at it. Can you show me what I can do with your LUTs on the two clips? Let's see. Okay, I'm going to be using DaVinci Resolve, all right? So, the main thing that you're gonna want to like kind of focus on is what techniques I'm doing. Don't follow the strokes that I'm doing. Follow the techniques that I'm doing, and you can do this with Premiere. I'm not super familiar with I'm not super comfortable with Premiere, so that's pretty much why I'm using DaVinci. But you should be able to pretty much come pretty close to using the Lumetri tools and getting a similar effect. You can do it in Photoshop. Like honestly, one of the things that I did when I was learning color grading, or like let's say Cinema 4D, like sometimes I watch different softwares performing the same goal. Let's say like I don't know, like let's say I want to create an orange and teal. I remember doing this back in the past. Like I used to watch Photoshop tutorials because it was a really good Photoshop tutorial, and they taught you how to do teal and orange with a different software, obviously. And so it pretty much pushed me to kind of like challenge myself to learn the controls even more, the tools. So in a nutshell, what they were using was pretty much just curves, like levels or whatever, which is contrast levels. It's all the same shit. It really is. Okay. So what I'm going to do is start right now. Okay, so you're mentioning the light inside. I'm assuming what you're trying to say is you want to balance out the window exposure and the inside exposure of the interior, and you don't want to bring lights with you. So you want to kind of like do everything in post. So okay, awesome. Let's hop into DaVinci right now. Okay, so what I'm first noticing is your window is obviously brighter, and obviously the room interior is darker. So what you want to do is kind of like trade places, and it's totally possible. I actually colored this a few weeks ago, and I was able to create a really decent look. And so I have a, let's see. So okay. So what you want to do is first always start with the exposure. So the first so this is going to be a little difficult, right? Because I know you're going into Premiere. All right, so the first thing that you want to do with color grading, and this is the first step I would take in Premiere Pro, is I would, excuse me, I'm drinking some water here. A little parched. All right, so exposure. Yeah, things drag on with unedited versions. All right, so exposure. First thing that I'm going to do the first thing you always want to do with color grading is exposure and white balance. In Premiere Pro, you're going to do the same thing. All right. So what you're going to do, what I personally do, is I kind of like to just bring it down just slightly above 0 in the waveform. And I'm going to take this part and bring it just ever so slightly down towards roughly that line. You don't need that line in Premiere. It's just, these are guidelines that I honestly just pretty much enjoy. It's preference, so you don't have to follow this at all. But so what I usually like to do is have exposure slightly lower than the 100 point line, and slightly above the 0. It just, to me, looks better, especially with H.264. H.264 sucks. It's highly compressed. It's just horrible. So to combat that, I purposely just go slightly above 0 and below 10, 0, 100, whatever you want to call it, 1,000, 100. Different scopes, different numbers. I don't get it. Whatever. It's the same shit. Who cares? All right. Anyways. Okay. So exposure. So let's see. Maybe make sure that I'm okay. All right. I'm just going to tweak the exposure. Okay. What I'm looking at right now, just so I don't feel like I'm going too high with the shadows, I'm looking at this area because this seems to be the darkest area. And if you notice, if I go higher, it starts to look generic and just cheap. But if you notice, compared to that, like when I do raise the shadows, you're going to notice that the room does brighten up a little bit. And be careful, because like right here, I could tell that there's noise right there. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of like bring it. I'm going to start right here, something like that. Let's see. Oh, and I'm not paying attention to the window. So just don't even look at it. Don't even look at it. Stop looking at it. You're looking at it right now. Stop. All right. So what we're going to do is brighten up this room just a little bit. We're using our best judgment. That's it. And so the trick is to make sure that the shadows here don't become too milky. And let's just bring it down just a little bit. All right. So the next thing that you want to do is let's get your white balance. Let's see how the white balance is going. All right, so I think in Lumetri they have temperature controls. Let's see what this does. All right. Yeah, just a touch of white balance. So the first thing, two things that you want to do always is adjust your exposure and white balance in no particular order. It doesn't really matter. Let's see where we're going. All right, that looks good enough to me. You might even have a white balance dropper or something in your Premiere Pro. That would be an easier step. So to make it easier, color picker gets your white balance, and then just adjust your exposure. All right, so next thing that we want to do is we want to kind of get rid of all of the brightness in here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a mask. And in Premiere, I know for a fact that you guys have masks in there. All I am going to personally do is go like this, open it up. This is your feathering. And I know in Premiere they have that. So what I like to do with my exposure, I like to use the curves. Man, I am really hard at talking today. So the cool thing with actually dropping this stuff, you're going to notice that you're going to gain a little bit more detail, which is cool. It's a good thing. And it adds a little bit more pop. Let's see, where are we going? All right, so that's not bad. Let's see. Let me see what it actually looks like this. Nah, I don't like it. Okay, so what my goal is with the window is to pretty much try to get the room to match. I've actually seen like exposures for the room inside and the outside to match exposures, or to have it slightly darker the outside. It doesn't really matter. It's really preference. I've actually seen lots of commercials, lots of television shows, movies and I've read a lot of articles on this topic where people are asking what's up with the blown highlights, and it's actually some people actually prefer this. Like technically, that's a blown highlight right there, and it doesn't look bad. So you have to like there's actually a lot of color grading. What do you want to call it? Techniques where people will purposely blow out the highlights, which is totally acceptable. It's really preference. Don't think that color grading is once said just like a set of rules and all that stuff. That's not true. It's art. You're supposed to make this make it look good, you know, and make it within broadcast legal standards. And boom, these are actually the lines right here. These are the safety standards or the broadcasting safe standards. If you notice that, that's out a little bit, but that's technically why I have those lines. So blown highlight, who cares? It's within safety standards. Cool, awesome. All right, let's see. One of the things that I want to do actually is I'm gonna since I have the window pretty much where I want it, and if you notice, I'm gonna toggle this on and off. If you notice, there's a huge difference. Look at that, it's so gross. And then boom, right there. I might actually take the softness and make it a little. Yeah. All right. Yeah. That looks a little bit better. Okay. Never mind that stuff. All right, so I just wanted to get the mask off. That's it. All right. Oh yeah, did I mention that this is gonna be a long tutorial? You asked for it. All right. So what I'm gonna do with this layer, or this is technically a node, but it would be a layer in Premiere, I believe. Let's see. I'm gonna do an overall. Okay, so I'm gonna do an overall exposure adjustment. Actually, let me darken this up just a slight bit. Okay, so the other thing that you're gonna want to do is you're gonna want to track that window. All right, so we're at the end of the clip. This is how you track stuff in DaVinci. In Premiere, I'm quite sure there's a tracker in there. So what you're gonna do is pretty much, if you notice, it's gonna stay on the window, or yeah, it's gonna stay in that one place, and you don't want that. You want it to stick on the window. So obviously you're gonna want to use a tracker. So the cool thing with DaVinci is you just go bam. Wait, I did it wrong. Bam. All right, so you're tracking the windows, so it just sticks there as if it was there in the first place. And honestly, that's really it. It's so stupidly easy, and the main thing is try your best not to overthink things, and just follow these first few steps. Okay, so the first step was to do white balance and exposure. Second step is to mask out the window. And if you notice, if I play it back, here, let me actually go full screen. It's going to look like it just exists like that, like the window is just like that. And that's what you want. So you don't have to bring in lights and stuff. But let's see, the next thing that you're going to want to do, that I just kind of personally want to do, I'm going to bring it to the end again. I'm going to do an overall adjustment. Let's see. Man, I really wish this area had more color information. That's why people shoot with RAW. RAW is the best thing that has happened to mankind in the video world. That could be debatable. All right, so I'm going to bring the highlights up. Actually, you know what? I'm going to bring the highlights. I'm going to break the rules a little bit. I'm going to bring it up to, yeah, kind of like that. That looks cool. I'm going to break the rules a little bit. And let's see. Yeah, so keep in mind I'm just doing an overall adjustment. That might be a little too dark. See my point exactly? See, look at the difference. Look at this area, and this is just adjusting the shadows just a little bit. So, crushing the blacks, broadcast safety, broadcast standards. Crushing the blacks. Just raise them ever so slightly above 0, and it looks so much better. All right. So, I'm going to do an overall exposure adjustment. Did I mention this video is going to be long? Yeah, I think I did already one time. All right. Oh, getting noisy. Getting noisy. I think I used the noise reduction last time, actually. Look at that. It actually brightened up the room. Do I see noise? It's actually not that bad. All right. So, yeah. Okay. I guess this will be where I pretty much end it. Oh, there is noise. Okay, I do remember that. I remember seeing noise in this area. All right. So I'm going to do... Wow, that's a really annoying whistle. I'm going to label these. This is exposure, white balance, and change level. This was mask. Overall exposure. This, what is I gonna do? Oh, noise reduction. So people will put noise reduction in their first layer or node in the chain. I don't really care. For demonstration purposes, I'm going to just show you what a noise reduction could do to help make this image just a little bit better. And I'm using Neat Video. You could use Neat Video with Premiere. They have a Premiere version, I think. What's going on here? Huh. I don't know what's going on. I don't know. I have no clue what happened. Alright. Let's see. I'm just going to do an auto profile because I just want this to be quick and dirty. Tutorial's already long as it is. Alright, let's see what it did. Oh yeah, you see that? Look at that. Unclean? Clean. Bam. Oh, did you see that? I'm going to reduce the opacity or the strength of the noise reduction because it's pretty harsh. So what I'm going to do is reduce the strength, which is the opacity of the layer. In Premiere Pro would be the layer. And it's going to reduce the strength of whatchamacallit, the noise reduction. All right, so I'm going to just kind of like eyeball it right there. Let's see, where are you going? Yeah, okay, the cool thing with noise reduction, what I notice, and a lot of people do too, is let's say if you have skin tones and everything, what it's going to do it's going to kind of like create this like plastic doll effect, and it's going to just like smooth everything out to an undesired effect, which is why I decided to reduce the strength. And having a little bit of grain in there is okay. It's totally acceptable. It adds texture, which is good. You want that. All right. Oh, and I forgot that you noise reduction. It makes your computer really slow. All right. So as you can see, there's less noise jumping around. It's up to you. You could keep it. You could leave it. Doesn't really matter. It's preference. I'm gonna reduce it just a little bit. See what happens. Yeah. Got rid of some of that plasticky effect, while retaining the noise levels. All right, I think I'm going to pretty much cancel out here. All right, so this is what it was before. All right. Before, this is what we started out with, and this is after. And let's see. The only thing that I'd probably do is take the overall exposure. Take the overall exposure and just reduce the opacity just a little bit. Maybe lift some of these shadows. Other than that, we are done. All right, yeah. All right, take care, buddy. Are you still around? I thought you left, buddy. All right. All right. I'm done.